And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another exciting episode of This Is Our Life. My wife ran up to the liquor store to get some empty boxes because we're going to be doing some work in here. Um, we ordered our wedding cake today. My fiance, excuse me. My fiance ran up to the liquor store to get some empty boxes. And my wife, she's not my wife yet. I'm not her husband yet. Oh gosh, my goodness, I don't remember which market it was that we went to now, but not one of the cheap ones. This is the one over by Target and the hardware store and the sporting goods store, and where like Olive Garden is and stuff like that. Anyway, so it's a two-tier cake. This is actually a nicer cake than what we were going to order. We were going to order a sheet cake. But, you know, we go in there and we see this and we're like, oh, wow, you guys actually make this? I mean, you know, the other grocery stores, you can order a sheet cake from. This place, you can order an actual wedding cake. Now, we were looking at the order form as the lady was doing something in the back, and it said something about a deposit. You know, and we saw that, we're like, oh my. Well, they didn't require a deposit. She said, the lady said, we don't require deposits. So it's $160. What we're going to try and do is go and pick it up on a Friday, then go to church and put it in the refrigerator at church before services. Well, Friday is a prayer service, they call it, but it's not, you know, the regular Sunday worship service. But anyway, we'll go and pick the cake up on a Friday, on the 8th, and then take it to the church that evening. Hopefully we can get there kind of early because we're part of the issue is we just don't know how many people are going to be there. And that's part of the issue. We received our first wedding gift today. It was a gift card to Target, $30. We bought food with it because we're scrumping by right now. And medical marijuana, I don't know if that's in Mass or here. I don't know if that's Massachusetts or here. I thought here they were going to have like 3, 4, or 5 medical cannabis dispensaries because my wife kind of needs it. And she especially needed it when she was going through radiation because it just made her, you know, really upset her stomach and everything. Sometimes she just didn't feel like eating, and sometimes when she did, she's like, why bother? I'm just going to throw it up. And usually, that's when you're going through chemo that you need it more than the radiation. Lucky, I'll take you out. Just hold on. So anyway, so we ordered a $160 cake from the market. And I don't remember white and red. I don't remember. And it comes with a topper. I don't remember how much extra the topper is, but and it's a 2-tier, not a 3-tier. But you know, my fiance was talking about maybe she could figure out a way to sew the pleats into my kilt. And we're going to have to go, next month, we're going to go to one of the nicer stores and get me a button-up, long-sleeve white shirt to wear with my kilt for the wedding. And then let's see. We invited another person to the wedding today, but we haven't given her a invitation. We just told her time, place. She said she doesn't need an invitation. She'll be there. But we need to print some today, this evening, although I'm starting to get tired. It's 4:30. And I removed some things from the wedding registry to try and reduce the length of it, the size of it. Some of the things I removed were duplicates. Other times, like there's this one canoe I would really, really like. Or anybody that might happen to see this video that sees the wedding registry, the canoe was on there 4 or 5 times, and my goodness, some of the places sell it for over $1,000, but in other places sell it for like 600 something. Like, why have it on there at the most expensive price? And my fiance doesn't want to do the canoe trips with me. It's, so I'm like, okay, well, we'll still have some time together because, we'll both have to go up to the north, up to the lakes region for me to get into the water. And, what we could do is at the portages, she could stop at the portages and then, maybe we could camp. Well, some of the portages, I know the one near, well, it's south of Claremont. I don't know of any camping areas around there. But there are places, because I'll have to camp at night. Because I don't know how long it'll take, about a week to do the Connecticut River. But there are a lot of lakes and ponds and stuff around here that I can canoe in as well. And those would be good places to teach her how to canoe. I haven't canoed in many, many years. But, so we ordered the wedding cake. I'm going to have to end this because I need to take Lucky out before he does something on the floor. So y'all have a great day. Bye. Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another exciting episode of This Is Our Life. Now, I haven't done anything political in quite a while. Oh, no.
Oh, dude, you left the door.
What door? Oh. So, here we go.
Lucky, shut the door.
On the hairs.
Oh, I know.
So, for those who've seen Shakespeare, if you've seen Shakespeare,
Sheen?
one thing I like about Shakespeare, depending on which of his plays you're watching, is you see I shouldn't say I learned you never say if you're making a speech and you don't remember what you're supposed to say, you don't say you just stay silent. It's bothersome to people and it makes you look stupid. So don't say Unless it's like my wife, the way she just did it, like, that's good. Then it's okay to do that. But anyway.
Oh my god, that horse, he's huge.
Yeah.
He's like a giant.
There's a hospice with a mounted police officer who's dying, and they brought his horse in to see him for one last time. Big horse. Anyway, so...
He doesn't even look like a normal-sized horse. He looks like a Clydesdale or something.
Yeah.
His head.
Yeah. So, if you've watched Shakespeare, if you've seen Shakespeare, or read Shakespeare, you will see all the intrigue and things that go on behind the scenes in politics. Yet people have this notion that what they see on the TV, what they read in the newspapers, that's the way things really are. It's not the way things really are. There is a whole lot going on behind the scenes. Many times the person that's up front really isn't doing anything. That person is just for the cameras. That's just a figurehead person. Like the U.S. president. The U.S. president really isn't in charge. There are other people behind the scenes that are actually making the decisions. It's like Congress. Most members of Congress don't actually write any legislation. Other people write it for them, be it contributors, donors, whatever you want to call them, be it their staff. And I mean, if you listen to these people, they will admit they don't even read the legislation. Now, if they wrote the legislation, they would know what was in it. But they don't even know what's in their own legislation. And so, that should tell you a whole lot. If they don't know what's in the legislation they supposedly wrote, then who wrote it? Why don't they know what's in it? They will tell you what's in it. They will tell you what they want you to believe is in the legislation, even if it's not in there. And I don't care which political party it comes from. Both parties it's one political party going by two names, and frankly, the Libertarian Party is on the verge of just becoming a third part of that one-party system. I believe in peace. I believe in non-interventionism. I don't believe in isolationism. But what I mean by non-isolationism, I mean free trade with other countries. That's one of the best ways to influence what goes on in another country, because like you're taking product to another country, or you're picking product up from another country, and they get to see they get to talk to you, they get to watch how you behave, you have these conversations. Well, what's it like in your country? What's it like in your country? What's it like in your country? And people, oh, really? You do that? And people, you have all these guns, yet people aren't actually murdering everybody the way people are told on the TV news. I mean, if us gun owners were actually as scary and mean and deadly as some people make us out to be, there'd be nobody alive. I think.
Yeah, we use the gun to shoot a fly, to swat a fly with.
Yeah, I mean.
22.
Yeah, I mean, come on, people. Common sense. The first semi-automatic rifle was invented in the 1600s. So the founding fathers knew about that. It was
not like it's a new invention.
Yeah, and it was produced that particular design was produced up to the 1850s.
Oh, God.
So yes, the founding fathers knew about semi-automatic rifles. The reason armies didn't use them, armies in the European sense, which means militaries, including navies and everything, is because a lot of the commanders and a lot of the politicians thought they would just waste ammunition, waste rounds. That's why they didn't buy these things in mass. But they existed. They weren't necessarily the easiest things to build. As time went on, as new technology came around, they became easier and easier to build. But early on, they weren't the easiest things to build, but they definitely existed, and in a good enough quantity, and they definitely caught on. Somebody told me recently, oh, well, they just didn't catch on. Well, if they didn't catch on, why were they made from the 1600s to the 1850s? Obviously, they caught on. Otherwise, they wouldn't have kept producing them. But anyway, so there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. And you and I never see that. We never hear about that. I saw an interview once with a lady on C-SPAN 2, and she was, I don't remember what she had done, but she had worked in Washington, D.C., i.e. D.C. And, she had retired or moved on or whatever. And she said, you know what? Just about every, if not every, congressman has a mistress. Every female congressman has whatever the male equivalent of a mistress would be. But usually, yeah, you don't hear about that. And you probably think, oh, well, my congressman. No, your congressman is still a politician. Your congressman is just as bad as the rest of them. Go watch some good Shakespeare. And I'm not talking about Romeo. Well, actually, Romeo and Juliet would be good because you get to see what's going on behind the scenes within the families. Things that we otherwise don't get to see. But I'm talking about watching, Julius Caesar and that stuff. A lot of stuff goes on behind the scenes that we never hear about. Who's writing the legislation? It's not the Congress critters writing the legislation. Otherwise, they would know what was in it. And you can ask them straight out, what's in the legislation? I don't know. Did you read the legislation? No. But you said you wrote it. Yeah, I wrote it. Well, I wrote it, but I don't remember what I wrote. Oh, come on now. And why do you write 1,000 pages or 5,000 pages for one little law? That's ridiculous. It's like Obamacare. Remember Obamacare, before it was called Obamacare, it was called Romneycare. Who helped write Obamacare? Romney's people helped write it. Why? Because neocons are not conservatives. Neocons are socialists. The Democratic Party is a socialist party. The Republican Party is a socialist party. They're just plain people. People like to think, well, the Republicans are actually conservatives. The Democrats are actually liberals. No. And the Democrats are definitely not classical liberals. I believe in the individual. I believe in freedom for everyone. I am against wars. Let's talk about that issue, wars.
Gotta get the war machines running.
Yeah. How many people are aware that in Iraq, the U.S. still has about 2,000 troops, 2,000 military personnel? They haven't all left. There are permanent bases in Iraq. There are at least, or excuse me, not at least, there are around 2,000 U.S. troops in Iraq. There are so-called civilian contractors. There are more civilian contractors in Iraq today than the total number of U.S. personnel, military personnel, ever were there. These are mercenaries. I'm not talking about truck drivers. I'm talking about armed mercenaries. Is that redundant, armed mercenaries? Anyway, so what's going on now? Obama's like, well, why don't we send in 300 spec ops troops? Well, 300 spec ops troops, frankly, isn't going to do anything. And the only reason 300 would actually help is because there are already at least 2,000 or around 2,000 U.S. personnel, military personnel already over there, and the U.S. Embassy in Iraq. There are thousands, literally thousands, of diplomats in Iraq. Diplomats. Obama has done nothing more than carry on the policies of George Bush, who carried on the policies of his daddy, who carried on the policies of Clinton, who carried on the policies of the other Bush. Actually, it was Clinton. It was Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama. And before Bush, it was Reagan. But each of these presidents, they're figureheads. And if you actually look at the freaking Constitution, they don't have any power. At least, nothing significant. The presidential signing statements, what is that term I'm looking for? Anyway, the things that Bush was criticized for, and now Obama's being criticized for by the Republicans, not by his own constituents. He's doing the same thing Bush did with all these little decrees. Those are not laws. The only people that can make law is the Congress, not the president. The president cannot make law. Read your Constitution, people. We actually have a couple of copies somewhere up here. I'd have to look. But why have I turned away from anarchism and toward a Republican form of government? Even though nobody asked, I'm still going to tell you. In the end, people wind up being followers. People wind up doing things for people without realizing. People wind up being told what to do, and they do what they're told without realizing they're doing what they're being told to do. They think they're doing it on their own. A prime example is Keene.
They're being sheeple.
Yeah, sheeple, exactly. Perfect. You know, I don't know how many people in Keene realize it. I mean, the non-activists in Keene, many of them realize what's going on. But the activists themselves don't seem to realize they're doing exactly what Ian's telling them to do. They're doing exactly what Ian wants them to do. Because of this, because they're not making conscious decisions, and because I've seen this so many times in so many places. You know, you look at
Every will.
yeah, you can, if you stop and think about what's going on, think about it, kind of step back, look what's going on, look at it, think about it, and then make your own decisions instead of just wind up doing things without realizing you're doing what you're being told to do. A lot of you, most of you, the vast majority of you don't even realize you're doing what you're being told to do, which is sad. You know, there's a reason you're called the Ian Freeman cult or the Ian Bernard cult. His name's actually Ian Bernard. But anyway, so, you know, I look at Adam versus a Man. There are old videos from, oh, what's that called? Occupy. From, I don't know if it was Occupy DC, Occupy Wall Street, or whatever it was that he was at, and he goes in there and they're like, oh, you're a government agent, you're a government agent. He's asking them some pointed questions, economic questions, and they can't even answer his questions. Now, he is an individualist anarchist or anarcho-capitalist, but it's not that I oppose individualist anarchism. I would prefer it, but like I said, people in the end wind up doing what they're told to do. People are influenced. I'm influenced. My fiance is influenced. Everybody is influenced. And sometimes we just don't realize it until after the fact or until the middle of something, and then it's kind of late, isn't it? That's why I believe in republicanism, because republicanism, everybody's represented, everybody's rights are protected. Well, in a democracy, it's mob rule. It's the majority rules, even if the majority is wrong. In a republic, the minority is protected from the majority. But anyway, so, you know, look at some other ways to look at Obama. The drones, the drone killings, the NSA spying on American people, the government, the feds selling Bearcats and other such vehicles to local police. And here in New Cary, formerly known as New Hampshire, there was some legislation, sadly it wasn't passed, that would have required all local police, all local law enforcement that had Bearcats to turn them over to the state National Guard. Sadly, that legislation didn't get through. It might get through in the future, though. At least here we have a chance of things like that, of taking militarized weapons off the streets. You know, because, look, Keene police don't need a Bearcat. How big it...
Cora be wanting one.
I don't know if Dave would go for that.
Ellis might. Well, I can use it to drive over
Yeah.
the mass holes or
Yeah.
something, you know.
But Keene is not a very big place, and I heard one person say, well, what about when there's an ice storm? Well, frankly, if there's an ice storm, that's not getting through any more than anything else is getting through.
Maybe.
So,
Lucky.
you know, so
Put cleats on it.
yeah. Because, I mean, I understand they were saying, like, if a tree falls on top of it and there are people inside, they're probably not going to get hurt. True. If you're in a car and a tree falls on it, you might be dead.
Even in an SUV, you might be dead.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anyway, so I've gone on 17 minutes. 17 minutes, 14 seconds, 15.
Well, if they want to make it a good vehicle, they have to figure out how to mount a chainsaw on it and use it on the front. Cut through the tree.
Yeah. And
then push it out of the way.
and I want to say kudos to Germany for winning. I don't know who's. Oh, I guess that's the news, the sports.
USA
news.
versus Belgium, I think.
Oh wow.
BL. Belgium, yeah.
Okay, that's going to be a tough one.
Oh, look at what I found last night. I was ready to go to bed.
Oh, another one. Oh my goodness.
Two of them. Like, oh,
Where were they?
under.
Oh.
They're kind of hiding.
Oh.
You know.
So, anyway, so the war in Afghanistan's not over,
John's
and
standing there looking at me like, "What are you doing?"
and remember, Osama bin Laden was put into power by the United States. He was killed several years ago, not when the government says he was killed, but there were actual reports of when he actually died several years ago.
They're probably just using a fake body.
Yeah, well, see, they refused to show a body this time. When they said they supposedly killed him. Well, if they would have shown a body, we would know, but they're not showing anything.
Well, God forbid.
And, the supposed, well, I'm not going to say supposed, I believe there was a shooting in, was it Sandy Hook?
Yeah.
Sandy Hook. Why don't we see any pictures? There was a surveillance system inside. We've seen pictures from Columbine. Why don't you show us some pictures from Sandy Hook? Because I don't think what really happened is what they're saying happened. Otherwise,
Well,
they would show us some
I
pictures.
think they're trying to respect the privacy. But
Well, there are some things they could show, though. And, and then, Sandy Hook and the Colorado theater shooting, what they call it, the Batman shooting or something. Several of these shootings. Why are they keeping these people, the supposed Boston bombers? I think that was a government thing because the government said we're doing a drill on this day in this location. And if you look at the packs that these two guys that they actually had on, they did not have anything the size of a pressure cooker in their packs.
it was well packed in there.
So, and why don't we get to actually hear them? They don't want us to actually hear what they have to say because they probably didn't do it, or if they did it at the behest of the state. So, anyway, that's all I have to say. I am opposed to the Republicans. I am opposed to the Democrats. I am more and more and more opposed to the Libertarian Party. I mean, when you have neocons run as a presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party, that's a serious problem. Anyway, many people may not understand the origin of the neoconservatives. The founders of the neoconservative movement were former socialists. All they did was modify conservatism, so take some things that conservatives actually like, that they believe in, and modify it so it still sounds like they would support it, but make it like Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh actually supported government, single-payer medicine, healthcare. He actually, just as long as the other guy's not doing it. As long as Limbaugh's
Bag of hot air.
Yeah, as long as Limbaugh, his system gets put into place, that's fine. Even if the same system he's advocating is the system that the other guy is advocating. Now remember, before it was Obamacare, it was Romney Care. Why not just leave people alone, let them keep their money and spend it the way they want? Oh no, we can't do that because we know better than the individual how they should live and how they should spend their money. So we have to tax them. Well, no thank you. But anyway, y'all have a good day. This is going to be about 23 minutes long. Bye-bye. I'll let it run till... Nah.